Hi guys, Mrs. Waymeyer here, going to be talking to you today about comparing decimals. Need to give credit to Rebecca Ruiz on Teachers Pay Teachers. She created this resource. I'm just using it to as an instructional piece in my classroom. So thank you for her for creating it, but I'm going to use it to kind of explain comparing decimals in my classroom. So when we talk about comparing decimals or really even comparing any numbers, we always want to start in the greatest place value. So decimals kind of work the same way. We've talked about how there's a decimal point that separates the whole number from the decimal piece, but we are still going to compare them. We're going to start with the greatest place value to determine which one is greater. So they've created these boxes to kind of help us see that a little bit easier. So I'm going to take that first number, which is 47 and 824 thousandths, and write it in that first line. And then right underneath, I'm going to write the second number, 47 and 842 thousandths. So I noticed that those numbers are very similar and they use a lot of the same digits, but one is actually greater than the other. And when you stack them on top of each other, for some of you it might be a little bit easier to see now and you might already think you know the answer. But I always start in the greatest place value. So starting in the tens place, they both have a 4. So I need to go to the next greatest place value, which is the ones. Again, they're tied. So then I go to the tenths, and the tenths is actually also tied. So then I have to go all the way to the hundredths place value. This is where they are different. Now remember that hundredths, even though they are a small number, they are still numbers. And I'm going to see which one is greater value. So if I had 4 hundredths versus having 2 hundredths, then I would say that 4 hundredths is greater. Still a very small piece, but it is greater. So whenever we're doing our greater than, less than symbols, it would be facing to the right. To read this equation or expression, we would say 47 and 824 thousandths is less than 47 and 842 thousandths. Okay, so making sure that you line up your place values is important, and starting in the greatest place value and then working your way backwards if you have a lot of similar digits. Let's try a couple more. So here are a couple more examples. On the back, we have 75 and 876 thousandths versus 75 and 786 thousandths. So again, when we stack them on top of each other, it's kind of pretty quickly easy to see. The tens are the same, the ones are the same, they differ in their tenths. So we don't have to go any further. We kind of ignore those digits behind it because this is where they are different. So the question would be, is 8 tenths greater or is 7 tenths greater? Excuse me. So hopefully you're saying to yourself 8 tenths is greater. So we are going to have a greater than symbol here. On the next example, that's a 7. And 63 and 371 thousandths versus 67 and 317 thousandths. So as I'm looking through those place values, I notice they differ in their hundredths place. Therefore, I know 7 hundredths is going to be greater than 1 hundredth. So again, it is greater than. And the last one, this time they differ in the tenths place. So looking at these two numbers, I notice that 9 is greater than 8. So keeping with our pattern, it is also greater than. Keep in mind too that not all numbers always have the same number of digits. So I will create another video that kind of goes into that a little bit more, but just so you are aware, some numbers do not always have, like this one has 5 digits and this one also has 5 digits. So remembering that if you had, let's say, a 7 here on the end of this number, in order to make these two comparable, we would need to add a 0 here, an annex 0 or a 0 place value, in order to be able to compare them. Obviously, it doesn't matter for this number right now just because we already know from our tenths place, but if for some reason all the other digits were the same and it had a number in the 10,000ths place, then we need to add that 0. Okay, hopefully this helps you with comparing decimals. Thank you for watching.